I can hear you this time, which is nice.
That's good. That's good. What's up, everybody? We are joined by Dan Wade, writer for LA Football Network, also does the Locked On Chargers podcast. Had him on the marathon stream yesterday, but happy to get him back with me right now just to do a little breakdown of this Chargers pick of Josh Palmer. So initially, I don't love it, but I think that the fact that the Chargers knocked the first two picks out of the park, I can't be upset. But what's your thoughts on it initially?
Well, I think about all the Charger fans who, after that Asante Samuel Jr. pick just said, it doesn't matter what happens from here on out, right?
Right.
And then you see the reactions to the Josh Palmer pick. I mean, another guy who through LA Football Network I was able to see at the Senior Bowl, another guy that impressed and dramatically raised his draft stock. I mean, according to what we just saw from that Senior Bowl, I mean, a lot of one-on-ones, he was dominating in those. Definitely a dominant attacker of the football while it's in the air, especially for a guy that doesn't have, great size. I mean, under 6'2". So, I mean, he is that outside threat. And when you look at the Chargers, they're planning for the future, which I guess is a good thing, right? Because I see this as a Mike Williams insurance plan. I mean, him being on his fifth-year option. I mean, you think of who they have. The guys, I mean, Keenan Allen can play outside, obviously, but even you can make the argument that he's better suited to the slot. The rest of the guys they have, Jalen Guyton, Tyron Johnson, KJ Hill, Joe Reed, none of those guys are prototypical outside receivers. So the Chargers looked like they were trying to go for one of those guys. I like Josh Palmer. I mean, I think it was definitely a reach at 3, which I think we've become accustomed to in the third round. The Chargers go for their guys, right? Whether anyone else thinks they're a third-round pick doesn't really matter to Tom Telesco once the third round starts in. He'll be going up against a lot of different third-round picks of the past that haven't panned out for the Chargers. I mean, the Chris Watts, the Craig Magers, the Trey Pipkins. This is a trend for the Chargers that they're not bucking this year seemingly just because, we have seen some other teams go up and get guys that have been surprises. But for the Chargers, it seemed like they got extreme value with both of their first 2-round picks. It's hard to say that this one was a value pickup. I mean, this is just, we like this guy, we're going to go get him.
Yeah, that's I felt that you said it in the beginning. It seemed like a plan for if Mike Williams is not re-signed, because they said on the broadcast, but just in tape I've watched, and I'm sure saw at Senior Bowl, his strength is going up and getting the ball. He's not a great route runner. He's not breakaway speed. He has some. I think he burned Patrick Surtain in a game against Alabama, but that's not his MO. His MO was just a jump ball guy, which is what Mike Williams is. So it felt like they were like, all right, we're paying Mike Williams $15 million this year. If we don't want to re-sign him, let's get our insurance now. It is interesting, though, because obviously the drop-off from Keenan Allen to Mike Williams, then after that is a huge drop-off. But now they have they have 8 receivers in their room now?
Yeah, I mean, they have a ton, and I think that's the next thing is who's dropping out of this, right? Because, I mean, they realistically have 6 guys that would have been thought to be locks to kind of make the roster. I mean, we can go through it. You have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen at the top. You have the guys who kind of broke out last year, the speedster guys who are very good pieces, right? I mean, we saw that last year. Neither of them was putting up, 5-6 catches a game, but speedster guys in Jalen Guyton and Tyron Johnson, T. Billy. And then you have the 2 draft picks from last year. The Chargers spent a 5th and a 7th round pick on wide receiver last year. Yeah. Different coaching staff, we don't know if they'll see those same things, but Joe Reed and KJ Hill sitting at the bottom of this roster right now. We know that Joe Reed can give some value on special teams as far as kick returner, but at the same time, we just saw so little of him last year. Even KJ Hill came on towards the end of the year due to injuries, had a couple of catches, but we didn't really learn anything about either of those guys other than the fact that they weren't really used very much. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, and you'd have to think special teams is going to be a big part of who sticks around, but this guy obviously gets a pretty nice head start considering this new coaching staff spent a 3rd round pick on him.
Yeah, I think Joe Reed is that candidate for breakout player of the year. I hope anyway. I think he has the skill set that's different from what everyone in the receiver room has. And if it's not on special teams, but he can just be that kind of that Swiss Army knife type of guy that Joe Lombardi had down in New Orleans. Not saying he's going to be like a Taysom Hill, but Joe Lombardi's offenses kind of have that, whether it was Alvin Kamara or someone that kind of plays that role of do it all. And I know the Chargers have Austin Eckler, but Joe Reed, I think, should be that guy. So, yeah, the Palmer pick.
I think, for me, realistically, ideally, what I would want, especially for a young quarterback like Justin Herbert, is an elite separator. A guy like Elijah Moore. Obviously, he's picked much earlier, but some sort of that skill set where you can get a guy who can be explosive coming out of his breaks, can get open early for Justin Herbert, be a really nice, clean, easy target early on in the process of a throw. So that's the kind of skill set I would have liked, because I think the thing is one of the things we realized last year is Phillip Rivers was hucking up balls to Mike Williams, right? His best seasons came from a lot of Phillip Rivers hero ball, just 50-50 throws down the field. And there's definitely a place for that. But this isn't a guy who's going to take the top off of defense, right? It's going to be a contested catch more than likely if you're throwing it down the field. And Justin Herbert in his rookie season seemed to, be reluctant to give Mike Williams even those chances at times, right? Yeah. You weren't seeing him, especially as a young quarterback. I mean, you're not taught, hey, just throw it up and see what happens, right? You want to see somebody separate. You want to see somebody wide open. Mike Williams isn't a guy that has elite separation. He's not a guy who gets wide open most of the time. He can do it. You saw it in the Saints game. They needed points. He chucked it up to him down the sideline. It was a dime. He made a great catch on it, but he wasn't getting the targets you would think the clear number 2 receiver would get in this offense when he was in the game. So it is a little bit interesting, but I think we've, kind of come to expect that from Tom Telesco in the 3rd round for sure.
Why do you think that is, that the 3rd round is just like a bugaboo? Last year was like smart. That's why they traded the 3rd round pick. It was like, cool, we don't have to worry about it. Trade it up, get Kenneth Murray, and then we'll regroup in the 4th.
I don't know. I mean, it goes back, pretty much from his entire tenure. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a 3rd round pick that's been really impressive. I mean, another guy I didn't mention was Dan Feeney, right? He was also a 3rd round pick. Now he's gone with the Jets. So the 3rd round, for whatever reason, it just seems like they try to get too cute. And obviously this is no indictment on Josh Palmer by any means. I'm talking about the guys we've seen, right? We've seen the careers and how they've played out. Josh Palmer and whoever the 97th overall pick will get the benefit of the doubt from me until we see how it happens. But I just think that for them, they just get a little bit too cute. And I think that that's where they start saying, okay, well, we see what the boards say. And also now we're just going to go get our guys. So it's hard for me to say that Josh Palmer was the best available player, which you'd think after getting 2 giant needs, you would go best available player. And with the receiver, taking a receiver, you would think, okay, well, they're just taking this guy because he's too good to pass up, because receiver's not that big of a need. But it's hard to really argue either of those that he fits a big need, especially as far as being an impact player for the Chargers in 2021. And as far as just, not picking some other positions, because it's like right now, if you're looking at their needs, the next thing up is probably safety or edge rusher. You can put those or flip-flop those in whatever order that you want, but the 2 safeties they have right now, Nazir Adderley, Derwin James, I think they've missed a combined 40 out of the 62 games the last 2 seasons. Yeah. And then behind that, you have Alohi Gilman, who was pretty much brought in to be a special teams player, maybe can get on the field in some nickel linebacker situations, but completely unproven at this point. And you have 3. A total of 3. Yeah. Last year, we saw what they did in the 6th round last year with the Rams. He knows what he likes. Maybe he thinks he can find just a guy that has that high IQ, can do all the little things and fundamentals and might not jump off the page athletically. And he thinks he can find that later on. But it's hard to argue that they don't have bigger needs right now than receiver, for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's guaranteed they'll take at least 1, if not 2 safeties, just seeing what the Rams did last year. And I know Brandon Staley is not the GM with the Rams, but I think he had quite a bit of say in what he wanted to do. And so I think that'll be addressed later. Was there anyone, before we move on, was there anyone that was sitting there here in the 3rd round that you wish they would have done? Like, I know there were some tight ends on the board. I know tight end's not a huge need, but, there's, 1-year deal. Like, there's really not like a tight end of the future. So I think that was a spot that I would have liked to see them maybe address. Brevin out of Miami, Tommy Tremble out of Notre Dame. I don't know if there was a position or player you saw that you're like, man, I think that would have fit a lot better.
Yeah, I think for me, those are 2 guys I would have been looking at, because not only are those guys, someone that could be the potential guy down the road, but they also give you inline blocking, which you don't get from any of the 3 tight ends right now. Tommy Tremble is a guy that I put in my article for the LA Football Network, is just one of those guys who's kind of my guy just because of what he brings, right? He brings juice to the team. And I kind of, saw him as when he has the ball in his hands, he acts like he's George Kittle. I mean, he has that kind of attitude. He's obviously very raw in the receiving game and was an afterthought in the Notre Dame offense, but you just love the way he played. I mean, that guy absolutely just uncoiled on anybody that was in front of him, loaded up and dropped him. And I mean, good, versatility. They have a guy in Gabe Neighbors who's kind of the fullback tight end sort of thing, but I would rather have this guy, lead blocking coming through the hole like his hair is on fire than potentially, rolling out with Gabe Neighbors. But yeah, I mean, it's, even as far as safeties, Hamzil Nazaruddin is a guy I would have considered there. I mean, they could potentially go there with the 97th overall pick. We'll see. They still have another pick tonight, but there's a couple of safeties I would have at least considered at this point. Edge was another position that you thought some guys might slip down to this area of the third round. And I mean, those guys went quickly in the second round. I mean, I talked about Peyton Turner.
Going, they all went.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about Peyton Turner, as maybe the Chargers get this guy. I didn't know he'd be picked, 20 picks before the Chargers picked again in the second round. I mean, they weren't even close. And I mean, he started as like a borderline late third, fourth round pick at the beginning of this process. So it's been very interesting to see how, far guys have jumped up this draft board, guys you wouldn't really expect to see. But
do you like,
now Tommy Tremble's gone.
Tremble just went to Carolina. Not to cut you off, but Mike Anderson has asked, how do you like Ellerson Smith? Is that a guy you think maybe they could get at 97, or do you think he'll go before? Or?
I mean, he's a guy where I think that we'll see what the hype train looks like. Another guy that was at the Senior Bowl that I liked. And my biggest issue with him is I don't see how he would be on the field as an every down linebacker, right? I mean, if you're talking about a guy who can come in and be a pass rush specialist, so to speak, where you're not going to have him trying to set the edge, I think you could find a role for him there. But for me, that was my issue with Ellerson Smith, and especially spending a third-round pick on him. I mean, he might have been higher on my big board than Josh Palmer was, but we'll see how it ends up shaking out. But I think for me, it was just I couldn't quite picture what the role would be for him outside of, at the top end being a situational pass rusher. And hey, if you get a guy like that you can get 5-6 sacks a season out of as a third-round pick, a late third-round pick, maybe a fourth-round pick, I think there's definitely value with that. But for me, it was just hard to say, okay, is this guy going to pack on weight, pack on strength to be an every down edge player for the Chargers? Because what I saw, I mean, at least even in the Senior Bowl, I mean, he did okay in space, better than what I had seen on his tape. And I mean, he was definitely a force to be reckoned with as far as the one-on-one pass rushing situations. I think that, boosted his stock a little bit too. But as an every down player, I struggled to see the fit.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. And, I think there's other edge guys that, they can address. And obviously at this point, they would be drafting just for depth, behind Bosa and Uchenna, and then depending what Uchenna does in the future.
Yeah, I mean, Bosa's the only one under contract after
exactly.
2021.
They got to have one or two guys, I think.
Yeah, so Fackrell, I think.
And Fackrell, good call.
The situation, I think, with Nwosu and also Mike Williams are kind of similar, just because for both of those guys, the Chargers are paying a premium at that position to another player, Keenan Allen and Joey Bosa. So even if those guys, I think some people are rightfully or wrongfully so are expecting big seasons from both of those guys. But best case scenario, they do really, really well. And then what are you paying them next season? What is it going to take to get them to stay? You're not going to give Mike Williams $15 million at this point from what we've seen so far this season. So maybe he ends up elsewhere. And with the edge players, it's hard to imagine both of those guys are going to come back, or, what it's going to cost to bring Uchenna back if he goes for 10 plus sacks. So I think that it's kind of a bittersweet scenario for both those guys, because yes, you want them both to, be bigger producers than they have in the past for the Chargers. But at the same time, that comes with a heftier price tag, and they would have to make some really tough decisions next year. But I think that that's a big reason why for that position, you have to find an insurance policy, and you have to find someone that you hope you can develop.
Yeah. Well, just to comment what just happened, the Packers finally took a receiver.
Amari Rodgers.
So whether Aaron's there or not, there'll be a Rodgers in Green Bay.
I saw they drafted their Corey Linsley replacement as well.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Yeah, considering they took him over Creed Humphrey, I was a little surprised by that, but I guess they value Ohio State receivers. That's where Linsley came from too. So
yeah, no, I guess you could say that. I mean, Creed Humphrey was a guy I liked a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the interior line class has been weird. I mean, Aaron Banks was another guy I really liked, another big time Senior Bowl guy. I mean, it's crazy. I like maybe just because of the opt outs and the unique situation we found ourselves in this year, that Senior Bowl just seems to be having such a crazy impact on this draft so far. Like, you usually can see him, maybe he's a 5th round pick, maybe he gets up to a 3rd round pick, something along those lines. But I mean, I feel like this year it's just guys are just absolutely skyrocketing up the board based on what I mean. Look at Quinn Miners, like that's another guy. Like nobody had really even heard of him before going into the Senior Bowl, and now
he'll be taken soon.
I'm surprised he hasn't been taken yet.
Osa Digizua, another one, had a great Senior Bowl, and at UCLA, and got taken by the Cowboys early. And I thought he had a great year in UCLA, but only a 6-game product. So obviously the Senior Bowl.
Benjamin St. Juste, I mean, the guy who was going to be a 5th round pick, 4th round pick. Now he's in the top of the 3rd round. I mean, he was a guy I really liked. God, sleepers just can't stay quiet anymore, man. You just can't. You can't trust them. You start liking guys like Peyton Turner and Benjamin St. Juste, and then they're just skyrocketing up everybody's board. But I mean, it's crazy. It was cool, obviously, to be there and see those guys, and now especially, I mean, we got to see every pass rush snap, every coverage, 1-on-1. There were some pretty crazy situations. I mean, Richie Grant, what I mean? One of the that guy was a total stud at the Senior Bowl. Mm-hmm. He ends up being the first safety off the board. Like that is crazy. So I mean, everyone should look back at all that LAFB Senior Bowl content and really just thank us because we told you.
Yeah, right. You told them.
These were the guys.
You put it out there. Before I let you go, we gotta, since we're talking Chargers, how happy have you been with the Raiders draft? Classic Raiders.
I mean,
hard to say each other on the field, but on paper, it's not great.
No, I mean, I liked them getting Mayrig. I like it. He's a safety that I like. That's the pick. If I was, a Raiders fan, I would have to be holding up, as far as look, we got this guy because the rest of the picks, I mean, talk about Senior Bowl. Alex Leatherwood was a big loser at the Senior Bowl, right? I mean, you saw him go up against some elite competition there, and he really struggled at times. He got better as the week went on, and that's the risk of the Senior Bowl too. But for the Raiders, I mean, that's the one I'm holding up right now if I'm trying to say that they had a good draft, because I think that's the only one right now that I would be excited about if I was a Raiders fan. But the Chargers, though, man, I mean, I didn't get to talk to you about the Asante Samuel Jr. pick, but that was obviously one of my guys too. Another guy in the LAFB article I wrote for you, just such a good fit for the Chargers. I liked him better than both of the Georgia guys that ended up going at late in the 1st round and early in the 2nd round. I liked him better than Kelvin Joseph, who they wouldn't have taken had he even fallen to them. I mean, just because of his issues and transferring and all those things. So for him to get there,
he was my CB3.
Yeah, I mean, for me, he was my CB5, but like even then, what did he end up going? CB8, somewhere around that range. I mean, all the top guys, obviously Farley, and then Newsome end up going the 20s. Stokes goes in the 20s. Tyson Campbell, Kelvin Joseph end up going right after that in the 2nd round. I mean, for him to fall, like it's just even last night. I mean, Tom Telesco in 8 years of the general manager, he's traded up 3 times in the 2nd round. And it hasn't worked out for him in 2 of those situations, with Manti Te'o being the 1st, Jeremiah Tauchu being the 2nd. Last year, he trades back into the 1st and gets Kenneth Murray. But 3 out of 8 years, that's a crazy percentage. And maybe he's learning on the fly, because this year, both times at both picks, you can make an argument. Trade up, secure your guy. You don't know what's going to happen. The Chargers in their first 2 picks, they stand pat. They let the draft follow them, and they end up with, I think, the literal best case scenario. Like if you're talking anything, if in fantasy land you could have hoped for Penei Sewell, but we all knew that wasn't going to happen. The dream scenario for the Chargers in the first 2 rounds came through for them. So I think there's really nothing more you can ask for. 2 guys that, I mean, Rashawn Slater is your left tackle, and end of story. Like there's no competition there with Trey Pipkins or Storm Norton. He's your starting left tackle. Asante Samuel Jr., he could start for the Chargers week 1 on the outside, or at least when they go into the sub packages, kick Chris Harris Jr. inside, have him on the outside, a guy that thrived in man coverage, which is something that Brandon Staley loves. And I think he was you know,
Exactly.
the best fit. Like a lot of those guys are zone cover corners. A lot of those guys fit better in cover 3 that were taken ahead of him. So as far as the fit goes, I mean, I don't think they could have asked for much better. And and then they go get Josh Palmer.
Yeah, I know. but yeah, it's not a Samuel. And seeing what Brandon Staley did with Darius Williams, and kind of an undersized corner that they put all over the field, played slot, but also could play outside if needed. Obviously Troy Hill was more that and Jalen Ramsey, but that just makes me so excited what Asante Samuel is going to do. And yeah, I think he'll be a day one starter, I think, in their nickel and dime packages for sure. And be able to use him kind of all over the field, whether they use him as the star or Derwin as the star or Chris Harris or whatever they want to do. So knocked us out of the park. Palmer, maybe we'll see. And then last thing, who's I guess your top guys? I know we're still we're still 10 picks away or so, but who's some guys on your radar for 97? And the Rams traded, by the way. The Rams traded back, just if anyone watching, because I was going to jump on and do Rams, but they traded back, so we'll wait for them.
I haven't been able to keep up with the board, but I mean, for me right now, I'm looking at tight ends for sure. I mean, I'm looking at tight ends and safeties. I think that's where you're going to be able to find. Did Jamar Johnson go yet from Indiana? That would be another interesting one. I didn't see if he was picked yet, but
no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, that would be somebody I'd be very interested in. Hamson Nasruddin would be a guy I'm very interested in. I mean, Quinn Miners is there and they want to end up taking another interior guy and doubling down on offensive line. I'd be cool with it. But for me, if Brevin Jordan is there, I'm thinking about it. I mean, if you're getting a safety like Jamar Johnson or Hamza Nasruddin, both of those guys would be a good fit and could come in and play, pretty much right away in some capacity for Brandon Staley's defense, just given what we've seen, that he likes to do. So, and obviously, hey, if you play well, it doesn't matter if you're a rookie or not. It doesn't matter if you're a first or a sixth round pick with Brandon Staley, as I learned from you. Like, if you're good, you're going to get on the field. And I think those are a few guys that could find roles for the Chargers very early. We'll see what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So, Dan Wade, appreciate you, brother. Always doing great work hanging out. I like what you've done with the studio there, the little backdrop with the gates. I didn't say anything yesterday, but it looks you've put it together nicely.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I knew we were going to be doing some spots, so I figured if I can't be up in LA with you, I might as well set it up nice over here.
Yeah, you look better than me. I got Post-it notes as my thing. So I mean, I'm in my
I know. I was trying to read those. I was like, are those chores? Are you supposed to take the trash out or something?
I got
Don't forget you have a baby, I think it says on one of them.
I got Demetric Felton no matter what. I got this guy can doll man, like Drew Dahlman. I got Miners midsection and wine with that Chaz, like Chaz Surratt, but so far I haven't got any of those picks yet. But
hey, keep adding, those sticky notes to your vision board, and maybe something will manifest itself.
That's what I'm trying. It's my Kevin Costner draft day vision board. So,
I mean, I'm seeing a lot of Rams bias behind you, but that's fine. That's what I'm here for.
That's fair. Yeah, there you go. That's right. I got to represent the Rams because all the guests I have on are all Chargers guys. So,
Kendrick Green. That's another guy that would have been nice.
Yeah.
Interior offensive lineman.
Yeah, these guys are going way earlier, I feel like, but
I know. Those are the things you're getting all these guys in your mock drafts in like the 4th round, the 5th round, and now you're saying, oh, hey, so was everybody. Everyone was thinking how good that was. It doesn't mean they're going to be there.
Exactly.
Los Angeles Rams trade. All right, good luck.
Traded the Niners, so I think they moved back just a few spots. So, but we'll check on that. So, Dan, my brother, appreciate you, man.
All right, man. You need anything? Let me know.
All right, dude. Take care.
Later.
We'll talk soon. Later, man. All right, everyone. Yeah. How you feel with the Palmer pick? Hit me up. We'll jump back on here at pick 97, maybe get a couple guests on. And then if any Rams fans are watching, I'll jump on when the Rams do pick. Have my boy, the coach, who I think's been watching this right now anyway, jump on with me and we'll talk that. So talk to you guys all